Hello everyone, this is Akash here from blenderschool.cf, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create this nice abstract scene with triangles. So the reason this abstract scene looks so nice is because of the black and white triangles which is laid out in such a nice pattern in the plane, and this nice blue to pink gradient which we have. So I'm going to be creating this in Blender version 2.78, and I'm going to be using the Cycles rendering engine along with the Enrich add-on. So I know the Enrich add-on is a paid add-on, but it doesn't matter. You can still follow along with the tutorial because we're just going to be using one of the presets from the Enrich add-on, which allows us to get this nice effect. So if you want to get the Enrich add-on, you can click the link in the description, or yeah, you can follow along the tutorial. So let's get started with a new scene in Blender. So we have the default scene loaded up here. Let's start by deleting this cube by pressing X and then delete. Then press Shift A and then mesh and then a circle. The reason I'm adding in a circle is because circle is a shape which has this nice vertices count option over here, as you can see. So if we decrease this vertices count to 3, which is the minimum value, you're gonna get a nice triangle shape. Okay, so this triangle is what we're gonna be using in our scene. It's completely filled with triangles, so we're going to be using this itself, and of course we need to change this fill type from nothing to n-gon. Okay, that's fine. So now we have a nice flat triangle. Let's give it some thickness. So I'm going to drag out this properties panel over here and then go to the modifiers tab, add modifier, and then solidify modifier. Okay, and then I'm going to increase this thickness value. So if I increase this thickness value, as you can see, the plane is getting thicker, but it's getting thicker in the in the negative direction. It's going bottom. It's not. It should get extruded upwards, but it's not. So we'll have to make this thickness negative just so that the thickness is in the upward direction. So make it in the negative value, just because we need to keep this origin at the base of the shape over here of this triangle. So we'll keep it to be -5 over here. Thickness should be -5, and we have the triangle now. So I'm gonna also move it to the second layer by pressing M and then 2, just so that we can separate the particles which we're gonna use in another layer. And also I'm gonna go to the Cycles rendering engine, give it a new material, and that's pretty much it. We won't set up the materials now. We'll do that later. Let's first set up the particles which we are gonna use in the scene. So that's nice, and also I'm gonna duplicate this triangle. So press Shift D, Y, and then move it over here. Okay, and then increase this thickness value so that we decrease the thickness. Now I know it's a bit confusing, but the reason we are using the solidify modifier is just because it gives us much more control. So if later we want to change the thickness, it's really easier to change. So we're gonna do that once more. So Shift D, then Y, then place it over here just beside the previous one. Again, change this thickness value. So the reason I'm doing this is just making the heights of this triangle a bit different from each other. So when we use this as a particle in the scene, so it's gonna look a bit more better. If we have the same height, the same particles, it's not gonna look nice. That's why we are changing this size value over here, just so that we get nice randomness basically. So I'll do it once more over here. I guess 5 should be enough. So I'll keep it to be around about this much. Should be fine. Nice average size of the triangle. That's fine. Okay. Now let's come back to the first layer and press Shift A and then mesh and add in a plane. So this plane is actually gonna hold all our particles in the scene. So I'm gonna also start by deleting this lamp, which I should have done at the beginning of this tutorial. Select the lamp by right clicking on it, X and delete. So now let's select this plane, and let's add in a few more vertices to it, because we have only 4 vertices and particles don't work generally really well with so less geometry. So first I'm going to scale this, so press S and then 3 and then enter. Then press tab to into the edit mode, and then press A once or twice till all of the vertices are selected, and then press W, then select subdivide. So it has added a vortex in the middle, as you can see. But then we need to add in more vertices, so we won't just keep subdividing it like that. What we will do is press F6 and then we have this nice number of cuts option over here, and we are going to increase this. So as you can see, the max value is 10, but let's actually increase it even more by just changing this value to something like 63. So it might sound like a lot of vertices, but we're not going to be using all of the vertices which we have over here as the particles. But yeah, it's good to start with a high number of vertices. Okay, fine, that's fine, a lot of vertices to work with. And yeah, let's go to the particle system, new, change the type to be hair, check advanced, and then emit from to be words, uncheck random, and then yeah, we can set up the particles. So currently we have all these triangles as a single object, so we can't use all of them together. So let's create a group for it. So press A and then press B to draw a box around all these triangles, so that we select all of them, and then press Ctrl G, and then we can change the name of this group by pressing F6. So I'm gonna call it triangles. Okay, that's nice, that's done. So let's come back to the first layer, select this plane over here, and then over here in the render select group, and then in the duplicate group select triangles. As you can see, we have the triangles on the plane now. So as you can see, it's not properly rotated, so we're going to check rotation over here and come to the second layer, press A once or twice till all of them are selected, and then press R and then Y so that we rotate it in the Y axis, and then 90, and then enter. So we have rotated it by 90 degrees. Now I do have a solution which you don't have to rotate it by 90 degrees and still you can make it face upwards, but I don't think it will work with this scene, because we also have to rotate it in the other axis later on, which we're gonna do it later in this tutorial. So I don't think my solution will work there. So yeah, rotate it by 90 degrees, and that's the only way I guess to go. So that's fine. Let's decrease this the size value over here to, I don't know, 0.015, something like that, really tiny. So as you can see, that's really tiny over there. That's fine. So let's set up the camera also now itself. So yeah, I'm gonna go to the top view, orthographic view, and then press Ctrl Alt number pad 0 just to snap this camera to the top view now. And I'm gonna come to this object data over here, which has this cube icon. Change this X location over here to be 0 and also the Y to be 0, just so that we have it centered in the XY plane. And also I'm gonna just zoom in a bit by pressing G and then Z, and then just drag it inside or out, something like that. So I guess this much should be fine, just till here, so that we can just see some of them. I'm also gonna change the resolution of the camera. So I generally don't change the resolution, but in this scene I found out that this sort of a nice portrait resolution, which it looks much better than a standard resolution. So we're gonna use that. So I'm gonna change this resolution of X to be 640, leave the Y as 1080, and also I'm gonna increase this 50% resolution to 100% now, so that we can render in full resolution. And I guess now we can zoom out a bit, something like that. That much should be fine. Okay, so as you can see, we have a whole lot of particles which are not even gonna be rendered. They're outside the camera. So it's a good idea to bring all those inside, so that even those particles are being used in the scene. Otherwise they are just gonna consume a memory, and it's not gonna be even seen in the render. So let's do that. So I'm gonna come in the camera view, and I'm gonna select this plane, press tab, and I'm gonna come in this vortex groups panel over here, and then add in a new vortex group. So I'm gonna call this group something like let's call it region, just because this is a region where all our particles is gonna be. Press A once or twice till all of them are deselected, and then press B and then select only just draw a box around the camera. So we have this nice boundary for the camera. Just draw another box around it, something like that. That much should be fine. Okay, and then you can click on this assign button over here, so that we can assign all of these vertices. And then when we come back to the particles panel over here, open vortex groups, change the density to be region. As you can see, all of those particles are now just moved inside this nice area which we have defined it. Okay, that's fine. And what else can we do is we need to of course fix the orientation of these triangles. So first of all, let's start by rotating these triangles. So I'm going to come in the second layer, press A again, press A once or twice so all are selected, of course, then R, then X for the X-axis, and as you can see all of them are rotating together. So now to fix this problem, change this median point over here to be individual origins. Press R, then X for the X-axis and 90, and then enter. Okay, and if we come back to the first layer top view, as you can see now they are rotated, and this is actually important for this kind of a scene. So that's fine. And now let's actually fix the count of the particles that are going to be used. So as you can see we have like 1000 particles, but if you see these faces over here which we have selected, these vertices, so like if you don't have it selected, you can just press A once to deselect everything, and in this vertex panel over here you can again select the region. And if you check out this vertex count over here, it's 1363. That means we have 1363 vertices selected. So if we change this number over here to also be 1363, we are gonna have now that many particles just as the amount of vertices that we have in this selected region. Okay, so if we go to the camera view, it's completely filled with particles now, with this triangle particles. So that's nice. And also as you can see they are nicely positioned now, as you can see, because we have this nice triangle gap. So if we have two triangle particles, there's a nice triangle gap as well, which we're gonna fill later on with more particles. And of course now we need to change the orientation a bit, because some of the areas of these triangles are interlocking with each other, and that's not good. So select the plane, so then press S, then Y, and then increase the scale, just so that you don't have these triangles over here touching each other. Now it's really subtle. When you reach till here, it's fine. You don't have to be too exact about it, but yeah, it all adds to the effect, and it's looking much better now. So that's fine. And also now what we need to do is distort the orientation of all these particles now. So if you have seen my abstract hexagon tutorial, you would have seen that I had edited the plane a little bit so that we have this nice interlocking between the particles. So we're going to do the same thing over here as well. So again, in the vertex groups, add in a new vertex group, and we're going to name it let's name it alternate. It's fine. And we're going to assign some vertices to it. So we need to select alternate row of edges, alternate row of vertical edges from the bottom. So if you hold down Alt and then select and then right click over here in the middle of two vertices, you'll have this nice vertical row selected. So now hold down Shift and then Alt as well, and then right click again, and then like this you can select alternate row of edges like that. So I think this is a bit of a hard way of selecting so many alternate edges, but still I haven't found a solution to do it really quickly. But of course you can share the solution for this down in the comments below. So let me quickly select all these all these edges. Okay, fine. As you can see, all of them are selected. Once it's selected, click on this assign button over here for the alternate group. So now now the reason I'm creating a vertex group for this is it's really helpful. So if we suppose deselect this row of edges, so I don't want to manually again select them, so I can click on the select button and it's again selected. So that's really helpful. I always recommend you to do that if you are following this tutorial. So let's actually move these vertices a bit up. So press G, then Y, and then move it a bit up. And what we want to do is basically, you see this triangle over here, this has this nice pointy end over here. Now this pointy end should touch the intersection between these two triangles over here. So we are just gonna just move it a little bit and check if it is touching that. Of course it's a bit of fiddly work, but yeah, of course create a great scene, you need to do that. So as you can see, it's just in line, but it's not touching it, so we need to scale the plane for it. So press S, then X, and we're gonna scale it like that, so it's just touching it like that. So it's nice. So now we have this nice interlocking pattern of all the triangles of the triangles like that. So if you come to the camera view, you can see our camera view is completely filled with triangles and it's looking much better. And of course now we need to set up the materials, but one problem which you're gonna find is there's actually some gaps between all the triangles. So if I come to the particles tab and uncheck emitter over here, because we don't want to render out the plane. If we go to the rendered view, and if I change the world color to be something like white, well, I don't think you can properly see it, but there's actually some gaps between all these particles over here, which are not even filled with triangles. So I don't think it's directly possible with the same particle system which you're using, but the solution which I found out to fix this problem was to duplicate this plane with the particles and essentially rotate the particles. So I'm gonna do that. So press Shift D with the plane selected to duplicate the particle system, and then press Escape. And what we're gonna do over here with this new particle is, first of all, click on this 2 button so that it has a separate particle system, and over here come over here in the rotation section, check rotation and change this to be global Z. And now as you can see, we have stars over here, and if you want you can render out like this. It even looks good, but we need to create triangles. So let's actually select the plane, the new plane which we just duplicated, and then press G, then Y, and then just move it up so that it just goes up. Just move it up so that we don't have that star pattern, and it should be touching the other triangles as well, because it's a nice interlocking pattern and we don't want to destroy it. And again also you need to move it in the X axis as well, so GX, and then I'm gonna move it somewhat like this. So it's a bit confusing to understand what I'm doing now. Okay, in the wireframe mode you can see it much better. So G, and then move it like that, just so that these particles are sort of interlocked to each other. So as you can see now, they are properly interlocked, and all of them are nicely filled with particles, with triangle particles, and that's awesome. So now let's get into the materials, because the particles is essentially done now, and yeah, we'll do the materials and lighting now. So come to the second layer, and then you have all these particles with one of the materials assigned to them. So select any one of them, and then just change this timeline over here to be the node editor. And so for this, the material is pretty simple, because as you can see in this scene over here, I don't use any multicolored particles. The color of the particles are actually just white, black, and the shades of black and white, which is just gray and all that shades, just like that. But you can see this nice blue and pink gradient. So this is not done in the materials, this is done in the compositor. And if you see the raw render, it doesn't look that good just because of the black and white particles. So of course you're going to be using the black and white particles, but we are also going to be adding in the pink and blue gradient at the end of the tutorial. So to achieve that nice black and white particles, we're going to be using the object info node, which I have used a lot of times in most of my abstract tutorials. So let's add that in. So press Shift A, input object info, and then take this random and then connect it to the diffuse color input. Shift A, converter and color ramp, just so that we can modify the colors. So in this color ramp you can add in all those colors which you want to display in the particles. So we're gonna start with some dark gray over here, like that, something like that. That should be fine, and we're gonna move it till here. That should be fine. Add in one more bar over here, and change this to be a slightly dark gray, I mean lighter than the previous one, of course, and the last one, which is white, to be a little bit a light gray shade, like that. So we have this nice gradient over here of the shades of gray, and we're gonna also change this interpolation to be ease, so that we have a nice softer gradient. We come back to the camera view, and if we come to the first layer, rendered view, well, you can't see much just because we don't have the lighting set up. But if I check border rendering over here, as you can see, it's looking nice because we have the nice random black and white shades of the particles. So that's looking nice. And now let's add in some lighting to it. So we are gonna come to the world tab over here and change the color to be, you know, slightly white, not completely white, slightly white like that. And let's add in a lamp. So I'm gonna press Shift S and then cursor to center, then press Shift A, lamp, and then point. And I'm gonna, you know, come in the right view, and then I'm just gonna press G and then move it around over here in the right side a bit top like that. If you come to the camera view, it should be in the center and at the top like that. So if we, you know, come to the rendered view mode, you'll see it's too bright. So for that, I'm gonna come to the objects panel, or the lamp data basically. Change the size to be around 0.06, so it's really sharp, and change the strength to be 30, so that we don't have, you know, too bright lighting over there. And I mean, now it's looking nice. Okay, we have some lighting over there just for, you know, just for some nice mood over there, so that it's, because this is a nice abstract scene, it doesn't have any focus, so that light part over there will have some focus and it's gonna look better now. Also, you know, the color management over here, the colors in the scene is not looking good at all. So we're gonna come in the scene tab and then change this color management view to be RRT. So now as you can see, it's really dark, but if you increase the exposure, you have this nice, you know, black and white effect going on now. It's much more better than the default view, and it's much more better now, as you can see. So it's looking good. And now we can actually add in some depth of field also, because, you know, in an abstract scene, if you don't add in a depth of field, it's not an abstract scene basically. Because, you know, you don't have much in abstract scenes, and depth of field is one of the things which plays a key role in abstract scenes. So let's add that in also. So we're gonna check on limits for the camera over here, increase this distance value so that this yellow line over here, you know, touches one of these particles over here in this plane, something like that. And I'm gonna also push it a bit inside, because we have, you know, smaller particles as well. So I'm just gonna push it a bit in like that. It should be fine. And of course that yellow part is the point of focus, and, you know, we can set up the aperture over here to be radius, because I think radius, you know, provides this nice because I think radius provides, so we're gonna change the aperture to be radius, because radius provides some nice strong depth of field. So we're gonna use radius and change the size to be 0.2. And let me try it out. Let's see if it is even looking good with 0.2, because radius is too strong, and I think it's looking fine. Yeah, it's looking fine. So the scene is pretty much done now. We are ready for compositing and rendering the scene. So I'm gonna save it first. So Control S. Okay, so I've saved it, and now we can render out it basically. So render it out. So I'm gonna come in the renders panel over here and change the sampling from 128 to 100, because this sort of scene doesn't require much samples. The samples required are only for these depth of field which we have added, but I think 100 should be enough for this kind of scene. So yeah, save it, and let's give it a render. So I'm going to click on this render button, and so this is going to start, you know, rendering the scene. And once it's rendered, I'm going to move into the compositor. And actually no, we're not going to go to the compositor today. We're going to go to the UV image editor only, and we're going to composite this image using the Enrich add-on for Blender. So the rendering is finished, and as you can see, this is the render, the raw render. And as you can see, it looks really boring without any, you know, effect. It's just black and white. So now we're going to be using the Enrich add-on to add that nice blue to pink gradient, and yeah, adding in the final effects for this for the scene. So I'm gonna activate the add-on. So File, User Preferences, and then Add-ons, and then type in here Enrich if you don't, you know, have activated it. Now Enrich is a paid add-on, and I understand that all of them don't have the Enrich add-on. So I'm gonna be using the Enrich add-on just to get the nice presets, which actually look really good with for any sort of scene you're creating. But if you don't want the if you don't have the Enrich add-on, you can, you know, get the Enrich add-on by you know, clicking on the card over here in this video, or you can click the link in the description. and otherwise you can use the compositor to manually create those presets, and yeah, you can do that. So just follow along with the tutorial, and let's actually finish this scene. So I've activated the Enrich add-on. So I'm in the UV image editor now, and if I press T, I have this new tab over here called Enrich. So I'm just gonna close other windows over here, because this is the way I like to work when I'm playing around with the Enrich add-on. So I have only the UV image editor open, and this is the the Enrich add-on over here, as you can see, with Enrich panel over here. So I'm gonna click on this nice big generate button. So as you can see, it has generated up the node setup, and yeah, it's all loaded up now, as you can see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first change the user preferences interface mode to be advanced, just because I'm not gonna even use the advanced features, but it's fine to use advanced anyways. So we have this nice presets menu over here, which allows us to choose the presets. So if you get the Enrich add-on, you'll have a nice collection of all the presets, and all these presets allow us to add in all the effects. So you can manually browse through all of these effects if you want to. So I can choose some other preset. Might try vintage too, and as you can see, it looks nice with this scene as well. This is these are some of the creative presets that look really good with some of the scenes, but the one which we are going to be using for this tutorial is Blue Evening, and this one has this nice gradient. It's a really creative preset, and yeah, it looks really nice. And a few settings which we are going to obviously change are a few of these curves over here, just because if I switch off the preset over here, as you can see, this area is a bit too bright now. So I'm just gonna decrease it over here a bit. It should be fine, and let's change the opacity to 100 again, and I think it looks better now. So, and also we are gonna increase the saturation of the colors a bit, so 1.1 to 1.2. Let's try 1.1 itself. That should be fine. Okay, and actually I think it's a bit too much. Let's try 1.05. So this is the the creative workflow which Enrich allows us to do. You don't have to open up the node editor and do all that stuff. It's all completely visual. That's what I like about the Enrich add-on. So let's add in a vignette also, because vignette is really important for any sort of a render you're creating. So 80% is a lot. So I'm just gonna increase the width a bit, because actually not the width, height, because it's a nice portrait render, so we should have a lot of height over here. Let's add in a bit more height, a bit more, and I think that much should be fine. Let's add in a bit more again, so 1.4 should be fine. Yeah, that's looking fine. Let's increase the width as well a bit. Okay, so we have the nice border around the scene now. That's looking nice. And I might increase the blur to be 25, just because I want it to be really soft. Okay, as you can see, in barely a few minutes we have just completed the post-production or the compositing of the scene, and it looks really nice. And a bit over here I have this I think these areas are a bit glitched out over here, but it's barely visible. It looks nice anyways. And yeah, it's looking good. So you can directly save the image, or you can change a few more settings. So if I increase the strength of this temperature, so if you want to use most of these settings, you can find it in the photo editing nodes pack also, like temperature and stuff. But yeah, I always recommend you to get the Enrich add-on, because it's a creative workflow which I like. Let's try 75% for the strength, and for the temperature, I think I'm not going to use temperature because it's not looking that great anyways. Anyway, so we have completed the post-production anyways. Now we can click on this view, save image, and we can save the image, and let's save it. So Control S, save the blend file as well, and it's pretty much done. So as you can see, the result is really similar to what I had. The only thing is that in my final version, which I did not saturate the colors, and I think this one looks much more better because of the saturated colors. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial, and the reason I like this scene is this abstract scene is because of the interlocking pattern which is created by these triangles over here. And then we have the color management which we have used, the RRT view. So that has, made the deeper parts of the triangles a bit more dark, and that has added to, much more depth to this abstract scene, along with the blue evening preset from the Enrich add-on, which has added this nice gradient over it. So all these, three elements have, really helped in creating this scene, and yeah, I really like it. So I hope you all, found this tutorial really useful, and if you have any other questions, you can contact me, and always do, share your renders with me, and thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to like and leave a comment down below, and yeah, thanks for watching.